Now, dozens of schools have reopened in Liberia in a sign that the Ebola outbreak is ebbing in what was once the epicentre of the outbreak. Martin Cudahy, our Africa correspondent, joins us. Martin, what a lovely day, and it must have been so heartwarming to see those children flock back to school.
That's right, Bev. It's been 6 months since any of these children went to school. Of course, they were shut down in an effort to try and contain the spread of Ebola, which has killed more than 9,000 people in those three countries where it's centred. So that's Sierra Leone, Guinea and Liberia. So, yeah, perhaps some good news coming out of West Africa at the moment. There were only 3 cases recorded in the country last week, so 3 new cases, that is, so definitely some good news.
And we do need to be mindful, though, that this outbreak is far from over.
That's right, and there has been some criticism of the fact that these schools have reopened before there are 0 new cases emerging. Some people have said that if one of these students manages to take the virus to school, then it could quickly re-spread or spread once again throughout the country, because all of these students will be going home and they could potentially be carriers of the disease. So let's be optimistic and hopeful that that won't be the case. But yeah, there is some criticism there that this move is perhaps a little premature. In neighbouring Sierra Leone, they're not expecting to reopen their schools until the end of March, so another 6 weeks or so. So some countries taking a little bit more conservative approach there, Bev.
Let's move further south to South Africa, where there have been some extraordinary scenes in Parliament with the the President Jacob Zuma under a lot of pressure about money that he has spent on his own private residence.
Yeah, that's right. So there was a huge upgrade done to the home of South Africa's president. It's a rural home in a place called Nkandla. And these upgrades were quite significant, including an auditorium, a pool, and a huge number of rooms added onto his residence. And at the time, the official explanation from Jacob Zuma and the ANC was that these upgrades or improvements were needed for security purposes. But you and I well know that you don't need a swimming pool to improve security, Bev. So that was his argument. Of course, he's been ordered to pay back the money, and he was giving his State of the Nation address last week, and he was interrupted by the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, which is a small opposition party in South Africa. Early last year, I actually interviewed Julius Malema when he was advocating for the reclamation of land from white South Africans to be redistributed among blacks. So he's very much a socialist and very much all about wealth redistribution in South Africa. He interrupted Jacob Zuma's speech asking when he's going to pay back the money. And then what happened was security guards came into the parliament. There were punches thrown. There was a brawl. It was quite ridiculous, really, to be seeing scenes like that in a democracy. All of the EFF members were escorted out of parliament by their security guards. Jacob Zuma didn't answer the question about when he was going to pay the money back. He just simply stood up and continued giving his State of the Nation address, which ended up being pretty boring apart from the interruption.
I noticed today that Thabo Mbeki weighed into the discussion, and of course there are grave concerns in South Africa that this kind of corruption and nepotism is really going to derail what could be a very bright future.
Well, that's right. Thabo Mbeki, former president of South Africa, he was involved in a power struggle with Jacob Zuma back in 2008. Now, he, of course, has not said too much or been too critical of Jacob Zuma since then, but this is the first time he's really come out and taken a swing, if you like, at Jacob Zuma. So perhaps it is telling that a former ANC member, very influential former member of the ANC, is highly critical of Jacob Zuma. So you're right, it is a cloud on the future or on the horizon for South Africa. Nepotism and cronyism and corruption are huge problems there, as they are in many parts of Africa, including in Nigeria and even here in Kenya, where I am now. So these problems really need to be sorted out before these countries can take the next step in their development. It is a huge problem, Bev.
Martin Cudahy, good to talk. Thanks for your time.
Thanks.